Welcome back to Cut Strand Weaving. I am going to attempt to explain patterns without losing people to the math. So we've already established that in a 6-foot shawl, we are going to need 144 threads that are 5 feet each. So I am going to use the graph paper. Each block is going to represent 5 threads. So I'm going to go ahead and tick off 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30, and 40. Now I want blocks of color that are 10 threads wide. Now with a triangle shawl, the biggest part of your pattern is that you want each side to be symmetrical. So I want to start with the brown in the center. And this is going to alternate brown and white with tan in between. So since I want to start with blocks of 10, if I start over here at the beginning, when I get to 140, I'm going to have 4 random threads over here that are a different color. So if you don't plan a pattern around your color breaks, it is going to be weird. So I'm going to start with that brown in the center, and instead of having brown with this 10 and this 10, I'm going to split the difference. So I'm going to do 10 brown, 10 tan, then white, tan, brown, tan, white, and those last threads that I'm going to have, it's not going to be 1 or 2, it's going to be a chunk of 7. 7 on one side and 7 on the other. That way it's a little narrow, but it still makes sense to the eye. Now I know that if I have this pattern, I am going to have 30 brown threads, 10, 20, and 30. Tan, I'm going to have 74, and then white, I'm going to have 40. That's 10, 20, 30, and 40. Each of those strands is 5 feet long. So we are going to have this many feet of each color. So if I have 40 strands of white at 5 feet long, that is going to be 200 feet. No yarn is going to give you the length in feet. So we are going to need to divide that by 3 to get the yardage. So for my white, I am going to need 67 yards of yarn. For the white and the brown, that shouldn't be a problem. Most skeins are going to have more than that. The tan, however, I'm going to need 124. This yarn only has 87 yards. That's a problem. If you don't do your pattern first, you don't know how many yards you need, and you will run out of yarn. So since this needs 87, or this has 87 yards, that is less than 124. I am going to need 2 skeins of yarn. Now you can do patterns 2 ways. You can either plan out your yarn and buy accordingly, or you can plan a pattern around the yarn that you have. Either way, if you do it ahead of time, you're not going to run into surprises. And surprises is what we don't want. So please make a pattern unless you are doing an art shawl where you are doing random colors and random yarns all mixed together. You need to have some idea of how much yarn you will need.